It is 2:04. So thank you all for participating in this webinar. We're going to go through it. We're going to be very similar to what we did last year, but it's really talking about ultimately the loss analysis and the action planning. And again, don't want people, like anything else, I think we always kind of overthink things that we don't know much about. So, the case in point, I think the coronavirus at this point in time, we don't know a lot about it, so it scares us. And maybe we need to be scared, I'm not sure. But I would say for sure within the safety discount and loss analysis action planning process, you do not need to be scared. This is something that's fairly simple. And we'll go through this and try and answer as many questions as possible as we go through it. So please don't hesitate to ask questions, and we'll go through it. So the first slide is, again, this is really the discount conditions. This is the same information that you will be able to pull off your off the brochure for this year's safety discount. And you can read through that, and I'm not going to read through all these bullets, but I wanted to make sure that they were included in here. But the safety action plan has to be submitted to me by May 1st of 2020, and you just send it to that email address, dbeck@lgrms.com. And again, I sent you information. You should have my email address. The safety verification forms need to be sent in somewhere between August 3rd and August 20th, or August 3rd and September 15th, 2020. So that's when we want you to send in the safety verifications, and you're going to do that to Penny Henderson, and she'll distribute those out there. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of these things. Again, updates this year. Again, eligibility for the 2021 ACCG Safety Discount Program must be completed between October 1st, 2019 and September 15th. So again, within this discount program and any program, the expectation that it is a year-round program, that it's not, hey, let's get ready for when the loss control person comes by to verify it. You should have a plan to continue, whether it's inspections or trainings or programs or policies throughout the year, so that you're able to do that on a continual basis versus trying to get ready. So I really hope that you are working towards that on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to look at, there's a couple questions. And I think I got a question, but I said I was answering it. So we'll continue on. To apply for the safety discount, submit the ACCG, GSIWF-CF, and ACCG IRMA safety discount verification forms, again, between August 3rd and the 15th, which I talked about already. The change this year, again, both programs, both insurance programs, ACCG, IRMA, and workers' compensation, are going to require you to do a loss analysis and safety action plan. So if you were only a GRMA or an IRMA member last year, you were in the property and liability for ACCG last year, you didn't have to do an action plan, but this year you're going to have to. If you're a member of both programs, you only have to do one action plan. We probably want you to do loss analysis on both, really determine where your issues are. There might be some there might be some links between work comp and IRMA, specifically on motor vehicle operation. But we'd like you to do that analysis. But you only have to have one action plan, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So one of the changes, and it's not really necessarily a change, last year if you were not able to attend one of the regional trainings, that's a requirement. If you're not able to attend that, we still encourage you to attend those. Then you can utilize a webinar as an attendant. So this webinar would count for that. So if you attend 3 of these webinars, you sit down and write a paragraph or 2 based on your learnings from that webinar. and you put those all together, that will count as verification of attending at least one regional training. Again, we'd still encourage you to attend regional training. We put a lot of effort into making those valuables, but if you're not able to attend, you have some issue, we recommend that you attend 3 of these webinars. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be you or one person within your county or ACCG membership. You can do it with multiple people. So you can have the HR person attend a webinar, and the public works attendants attend a webinar, and law enforcement attend a webinar. And if you do all 3 of those, they each write a paragraph, you put those together, that will count towards meeting that particular requirement. So just want to make sure that's clear. So everybody had any questions regarding that? Very good. So the big difference is, again, as we talked about before, is really the action plan for both IRMA and workers' compensation. That is the big differences. Again, as I said previously within the first couple bullets, and I really want to reiterate, those need to be completed and turned in to me by May 1st. So, you know, and we're going to give you time to do that between now and May 1st. The other thing is that your loss control rep, I'm going to collect all those, and I will send those all to the associated loss control representative, and then they will be picking up the phone and giving you a call and giving you critiques and or assistance on that action plan. So they might look at it and say, hey, this action plan is fantastic, you're doing a really good job. Or they might look at it and say, hey, I've looked at your loss analysis, and or I've looked at some other things, and I think potentially this is not going in the right direction. They're going to try and help you to improve that, so that we're going to have a value-added effort to help reduce things. Again, they're not going to, by no means are they going to come in and tell you how to run your business. I think you have a much better expertise of what's going on within your organization on a day-to-day basis than we will ever have, but they'll probably make some recommendations to help improve it so it will have an impact in regards to long-term sustainable reduction. And that's what my expectations are. So they'll provide you that feedback by May 20th, and more than likely after that, if there was an expectation that you're going to update it or make some changes, they'll give you a date on when that can be complete. So I'll look forward to that. Any questions regarding that change, those differences? Anybody thoughts? Okay, very good. So why are we here? Why are we expecting you to do an action plan? Why are we having you look at your loss analysis? What's the purpose of it? It's not just to really go out and make work. There's a premise behind it, and it's really ultimately to reduce the risk, the impact to your employees and to their families, and to the citizens within your communities. So when we look at our losses, some of our major losses, they're having a tremendous impact to our employees within the counties. And again, ultimately, that's impacting their families. And even on the IRMA side, we're seeing a tremendous impact to the citizens of those particular communities. And we want to be able to reduce those for the good of the community and for the good of your organization. The next piece is really the discount. We want you to be able to reduce your premiums from workers' compensation and IRMA premiums, and there's a pretty sizable discount to be able to achieve if you complete those action plans, both workers' compensation and IRMA. And then ultimately reducing future premiums for the entire pool. What's good for you is more than likely good for every other member of the pool. And if we look at averages over the last several years, we're averaging about 3,000 claims in both work comp and IRMA, and about $30 million a year in losses. And that's, covering some high and low. But when you look at developed numbers, they typically range about $30 million a year. So that's a lot of money that we're playing out in claims, and we'd like to be able to help reduce that ultimately so that we can make your premiums lower, and again, allow you to be able to, as organizations, counties, be able to spend that in a way to help out your citizens, to help out your employees. What is the purpose? Well, ultimately, the purpose of the action plan is to help leaders in your organization understand what's driving claims. One of the things that disturbed me the most a few years ago before we started this process is that we would go to members and we'd ask what their leading losses, and they didn't always understand what that were, or they had a different perception of where their actions they needed to take. So we want leaders ultimately to have a clear understanding of where their losses are. And from my perspective, if you listen to me talk on anything, if you want to change things, you can't make that change unless leaders are engaged in pushing that on a day-to-day basis. And that's the big part of that. Again, enable focus and a meaningful risk control efforts. Again, we do a lot of different things. And like most organizations, you have limited resources and you're not able to do everything. But we would like to see the things that you are doing have an impact on reducing losses. And rather than kind of jumping through hoops for the fact of jumping through hoops, we would like to see you putting your resources to, again, meaningful efforts in controlling those risks. Again, ultimately, the goal is to better protect employees from similar accidents and citizens from those similar incidents. Again, there's nothing worse than having reoccurring incidents that we have the ability to control and we're not taking steps to do that. And again, more than likely, if those accidents are occurring in your location, everybody within the pool has very similar risk profiles. So more than likely, it's going to happen elsewhere. So we want to be able to help those everybody reduce those risks and hopefully share some resources to do so. Again, financial incentive to reduce future premiums through safety discount and lower experience mods. Here's the suggested tips on how we start with this. You know, again, I would, you know, you can look at the loss analysis, but ultimately I think a team approach is the best way to do that. And again, it depends on your organization, it depends on your situation. But what I would say is, you know, you can start with your safety team, you can start with a team within a central organization, maybe senior leadership. You do the analysis and you identify, you're going to be asked to identify where the losses are, what department or office is causing the most opportunity out there. So maybe you start with a small team to help identify that. And then you're going to go, to that department and you're going to probably meet with the leadership there. And I would like to see a small team developed within that department to look at the losses and put things together. You know, if it's just you and the leader, more than likely you're not going to have a very clear understanding of what the losses are and where the real risks are and where you need to go. So the more people you get engaged, the more people that you can look at really what the real risks are, the better things are going to be. Again, there's not always a clear connection between the numbers and where the risks are. A lot of times the numbers that we'll provide you, whether it's work comp or property and liability IRMA claims, they don't always tell the story of where your real risks are. And maybe your employees will do that. You don't necessarily have to follow the numbers. We're giving you the numbers to help you do that. But ultimately, we're looking for your expertise and your employees' expertise on, hey, this is our biggest risk for a catastrophic incident or maybe a frequency. Maybe that incident hasn't occurred, but if we don't control this, this is something big that might happen. We're going to take that into consideration. So I got a couple questions here and I'll go through those. Is there a way to get the pool analysis that we can use to compare our county to other county pools? Yes. So I would ask you, I have done that analysis and I can send that out to you. So if you'd like to get that after this webinar, just shoot me an email, and I'll send it to you. You can look at that analysis. So thank you for that great question. I'm going to give you a gold star, Patty. I would love to see some ideas of what others are doing. For example, the agency was a problem, and here's what they put in their safety action plan. I know we're not all the same, but others. I think that's a great comment, Alicia, in regards to action plans. We'll try and share some examples of that. I think that'll probably come when your field reps talk to you. But if I see action plans in the interim that where departments or offices have done a very good job of developing those, I think that's great. I'll try and share those with the group that's participating today. Again, I think we got some different things, different questions. I'd love to see it as well. So, hey, thank you very much for your questions and comments. I'm going to give all three of you gold stars. Sherry, Alicia, you got a gold star also. So very good. But again, the more people you get involved in this process, and I would suggest, let's say, maybe have, depending on the size of your department, maybe you have yourself as a leader, the leader of the particular department, maybe somebody in a supervisory role, maybe a couple people within the frontline role. And they can give real life experience, because the last thing you want to do is say, hey, ultimately you want to find out what the root cause of that is. Maybe they'll say, hey, this is not necessarily the root cause, this is something else, but they'll help you identify that root cause. And then you'll say, hey, this is what we want to do to help control that root cause incident. They'll be able to give you feedback in regards to that also. So the more people you can get involved, the better your action plan is going to be. Let's see, we'll move on. Again, who should be involved in the process? Again, safety coordinator, if that's you, your loss control. And you can call, if you want help from your field rep, give them a call. Say, hey, I need help. Definitely. They're going to call you after to review your program or policy. You can give them a call. You can call me. You can say, hey, I'd like you to help via phone, or let's say that you want help in face-to-face. I'll come down and help you. I want you to be able to utilize us as a resource, so let me know. Again, elected and appointed officials, if you can have that access, I think the more they can be educated on this, if they're going to allocate resources to you, the better it's going to be. The more they're educated on where the losses are, the more likely you're going to be successful. Again, supervisors and managers and the frontline employees, as we talked about before. Got a couple more questions. Would like to know if a safety grant application will be held up by a safety action plan. Yes, it will. So the expectation is that you will have the safety action plan. In order to receive the discount, you have to have the action plan completed. In order to get the safety discount, or in order to get the safety grant, you have to be approved for the safety discount. So both those things are interlocked. Again, if you're applying for the safety grant this year, I think it's related to last year's safety discount. So you would have to have had your safety action plan for last year. So I hope that answers your question, Jim. Here's another question from Michelle. I have a question about the field rep report. What is the difference between the total spent and total incurred? I'm going to tell you that, but that's a great question. So hold on to that, Michelle, and I'm going to go through those reports just in a few slides. Here's another question. Is there a place to download this presentation, PowerPoint presentation? So that's a great question also. I'll be sending this PowerPoint presentation along with the recording, and probably if I can readily find it, I'll send you a loss analysis that somebody else talked about, and I'll send some other information that you've requested. So you'll have all that to everybody that registered for this particular event. So it'll be emailed to you either tomorrow or early next week. So great question. Let's see. So your loss analysis, I sent out a loss analysis to 180 members by hand, and we're going to try and automate that next year. But it really includes both information, 2 reports. Well, actually, it could be 4 different reports. One for property and liability, which is IRMA, one for work comp, which is WC, And then again, the 2016 member dashboard is really a loss analysis report, and that data, again, could be focused on IRMA, could be focused on workers' compensation. It was taken from 2017 through 2019, and I think I gathered it sometime after the year 2019 was over. Again, if there's any blank pages in that report, which there probably are, that was really spaces for departments that potentially you don't have. So just disregard those. Again, the field rep report, we're going to go through that too. That's more of a claim by claim report, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And the data is from 2017 to 2019, the same exact data that was used in the members dashboard, so they should correspond. Again, we're looking at, when you're looking at the analysis, you want to look at most dollars spent, the most frequent item, most frequent claim, where can we direct loss control efforts to be applied to reduce similar accidents. So here's the situation. You know, let's say that you have a claim report and it has 75 hurricane claims. Well, that's your most frequent. That was your probably the most costly claim you have within your particular organization. I guess I'd be asking, what can you help to do to reduce the risk of hurricane claims? Now, there's things you can do. There's property things you can do. There's other things you can do, but maybe there's not much you can do in regards to reducing those particular claims. Or let's say you have had a frequency or it was a severity type claim that you've gotten rid of the risk. You're no longer looking at that particular risk. That's something you wouldn't want to focus on. So you want to look at something that has a likelihood of reoccurring, again, both from a frequency and or a catastrophic nature. Again, a high experience. Those are the things we want to help control. So let's look at a couple examples. The other piece, as I said before, and I'll try and reiterate this a few more times throughout, is that just because the numbers point to a certain type of claim or a certain type of loss doesn't necessarily mean that's what you need to focus on. We're relying on you to do your analysis to say, hey, I know this is where it says our biggest opportunity is, but this is what we have the best opportunity to control, and this is what we have what I think is the biggest risk or most likelihood of reoccurring. So for instance, let's say that all your incidents are within one particular department, and within that particular department you don't have a good relationship. The department manager is extremely resistant. You don't have any control. Your boss doesn't have any control. Nobody in the county has no control over that. They're not going to participate within the action planning process. Again, I would still work with them. I'd still meet with them, but if they're not going to play, if they're not going to, there's no use in you beating your head to get this done. I would let them know, hey, here, this is what our loss analysis said. We'd love to work with you. This is how we'd like to do it. But if they're not willing to participate, again, let us know. That's understandable. Or again, if there's a loss or a trend that you see that you're not able to control, that there's no amount of effort or resources that you have the ability to control, that's something we don't want you working on either. We want you working on things that you have the ability to control. So here's some questions. Did you say you sent these reports to us? If I don't have, how do I get another report? If you do not have this report, I did. I sent these all via an encrypted email. So it would say secure on it, and it said, I forget what exactly it said after that, but it was a secure email. You had to click on that, and then you had to, it would send you a password, and you get in it because I sent claims information. If you do not have that email, again, then just send me an email and I'll resend it to you, okay? But that's a great question. You briefly touched on this already, but is it possible to compare loss analysis from one department of one jurisdiction to your own? Yes, definitely. And I would say, again, if let's say you're a smaller organization or you're looking for ideas on what you can do, I think looking at the pool as a whole is probably the best approach. So looking at, if you look at department or office issues, so you can look at a public works department from the ACCG pool as a whole and look at their trends, because more than likely their trends within that pool as a whole is more than likely to match your trends. It depends on the situation, but that's similar. And I would, if you don't have a trend, maybe that's where you put your actions. Again, it depends on what you have available and what you have to work with. But that's a good question, Stephen. And Shelby, I'm not sure. I did not receive this email. So Shelby, if you did not receive the email, just email me back and say, hey, I need our loss analysis, and I will send it to you. Send me your employer or organization you work for, the county name, or the association name, or the authority name, and I will send you that information after this webinar. So great questions. Thank you so much. Let's continue on. So here's the field rep report, and you know, I'll put my glasses. It's a claim. It really is sorted by year and then sorted by department within each year. And I think one of the questions was before, what's the difference between total spent and total incurred? So spent is what has been spent on the claim, whether it's within medical or property or any indemnity, so TTD payments, any legal fees, anything to that effect. That's that. And then total incurred is paid plus reserved. So more than likely, unless your claim is closed, your total incurred is going to be higher than your total spent. The way it works within both IRMA, property and liability, and workers' compensation claims, typically most claims develop, if you take a large section or a large pool of those claims will develop between 1.5% and 3%, or 3 times the first year amount. So for example, if you have $1 million in total incurred claims within the pool at the end of your first year, typically that'll develop to $1.5 million to $3 million, depending on several different factors where you're going. So if you look at that, so if you have older claims, look at the 2007, 2018, more than likely those have had opportunity to develop. Some of them gotten worse, some of them have gotten better, but again, there's items in those newer claims. We don't know what kind of medical treatment they're going to get. We don't know some of the legal issues resulting in that, or even if they're going to file a claim relating to that. So you'll see those claims again develop and get higher over year after year. Again, I changed the names of both the county and on this and the name of the claimant. It has the loss date. It's got kind of an exposure. We talk about contact and program. The contact is a smaller variable that really looks at what specific caused that incident, and then the program is kind of a bucket that holds those items. So non-contact includes really sharp objects, caught between, struck by incidents. These are kind of general things that don't really fit in the bucket. Then we have motor vehicle claims, and those are all within one big bucket for workers' compensation. And then there's multiple variables or contact types within property and liability. Again, exposures within that non-contact too. Again, we have law enforcement operations on both work comp and property and liability. So within work comp, law enforcement operations is kicking doors, foot pursuits, vehicle pursuits might be one of those. Altercations is a big one within law enforcement. Within the property and liability, we have vehicle pursuits is one. We have excessive force, search and seizures, civil rights issues. Those are all contact types that we see. So we look at those, and those are the things we'd like you to look at, and they kind of correspond with the next report, which is the dashboard report. This first page, number 14, here on slide 14, is really a comparison of your county versus other counties or other members, and it's the first year And again, this is an older report, but it's the same thing. It's within yours. You have the last 3 years. So this would be 2017, 2018, 2019. It will give you a percentage basis, and that percentage is number of claims greater than $500. So these are all greater than 500 divided by the number of employees. And we have this also by motor vehicle for overall, and then for law enforcement motor vehicles. So it gives you kind of a rate so you can compare yourself to others. And if you can look at this, their rate overall for that 3-year average was a 5.79, meaning that almost six people had claims over $500 per 100 employees within that group. If you compare that against authorities, that's much higher. If you compare that against the small number, again, I think small is 25 employees or less. Medium, I don't have all the numbers here in front of me. I think medium is up to 100 employees. Large is over 300 employees. Extra large is over 500 employees, something to that effect. You'll see that their rate is much higher than the overall in any other categories. So it compares how it allows you to see how you're doing compared to everybody else. Again, then you look at the county, all departments. And again, there might be a few different things in here, the counties that you have, or departments or offices that you have, but it gives you basically a percentage. The number of claims by department, this is just number of claims. So it tells you based on frequency. So you can see police, again, there's probably, that could be miscategorized. It could be sheriff's office within that. And then total cost of claims by department and or office. And you can see it shows you the costs. And this is total incurred numbers. And then it gives you percentages based on for both of those things down within the analysis. So if I was looking at this, I would say that, again, you look at the high rate, your police accounts for 33% of claims, 23% of total incurred. So that's somewhere I'd focus. Public works, 11% of claims, 32% of dollars or total incurred. That's another department where I'd focus in this particular analysis. Again, this is going down for all departments based on program. If you can look at the ergonomics, this is strains, sprains, things to that effect. That's a big piece. You got 19% of claims, 49% of dollars. If you look at the non-contact, this is really, you can 46% of incidents related to that, but those are typically smaller type claims. There's only 20%, 23% of dollars. So that would be a question whether you want to focus on those. Got a question here. Within the sheriff's office, constitutional office, we don't always have control here, as well as you know. That is correct. So, you know, I would do my best to educate them, showing this loss analysis to them, show them the amount of claims that they're having, whether they're at the top of the list or not. I would try and educate them on that. Typically, they are a higher risk department, and they are doing things that are, again, that are probably more risky than most departments and have a higher risk profile. But we want to educate them as much as possible, and then also educate them on what they can do. I know, having attended the sheriff's conference and presenting to them a loss analysis myself, that they were very surprised that their biggest opportunity for improvement was related to motor vehicle operations. They thought it was jail. And jail is, again, a big operation, a big concern within property and liability, but it actually is probably about 11% versus over 50% for law enforcement or motor vehicle operation. So great question, Charlotte. You keep on going there. Again, this is just the same analysis within the specific department. So this is the fire department. Again, you want to look for those areas that have high numbers, both on the claims and or on the dollars, and where you would look. Again, in this particular case, the biggest opportunity, same levels. That's falls from the same level, 24% of claims. So that's slip and falls. Those are claims that you might want to look at doing some training on or other things. Struck by, that's 29% of claims. So you might want to look more in depth in those. What are those particular claims? Why are they occurring? Is there anything we can do to control those? You'd look at those specific incidents to do that. Again, this is program, a much bigger bucket, and it kind of gives you where your opportunities are. And if you can see that, again, slips and falls, 30%, ergonomics, 26%, again, non-contact, 44. So you, again, look at those. What within those particular categories, what are the things that you can control? So we talked about previously, again, the documents available. If you want to have an action plan that's fillable, that you can go in and populate, it's a PDF, you can go on to the ACCG.org website, insurance/IRMA discount HPS. These are all those particular documents. The first thing you can get is the safety discount program workbook. So if you don't have a workbook, you can go and pull that off this particular website. It's downloadable, you can print it. You also have the safety action plan. You got the that's fillable. You have the safety verification form, which I think is fillable, and then other policies and procedures there. So all that information is there for you to access. This is an example, or this is a picture of the safety action plan, and we're going to go through what that looks like and what we want you to put in each of these particular boxes. So the safety action plan, again, you're going to put the name of your organization, whether that's a county or whether that's an authority, whatever that is, and then the time period. What time period it is? You can put the year 2020, or you can put the date from September 15th, 2019 through September 15th, 2020. If that's how you want to manage that, put what is realistic. It should continue from your previous year's action plan. If you haven't started one and you're just starting it now, put the date now and then tool whatever. That's what we're looking for. That's what would be the date. Then you're going to just identify what departments you're going to focus on. Or let's say you're going to your biggest two opportunity departments. So in this particular case, in this model's really the ACCG group as a whole, sheriff's office, motor vehicle incidents are 23%, altercations, again, these are both workers' compensation numbers, 33% of claims. So those are total incurred dollars associated with those particular claims. Those are opportunities for to focus on. And then you go to the public works, you got ergonomics, and you have slips and falls. Those are the things you get to focus on. So you can do the analysis and you can do it by percent. I'm not going to check your math. And guess what? I don't expect my field reps to check your math. But let's say, for instance, that you've done the analysis and you think, you know, all of our claims are really within this particular category, and I don't think that's a major risk. I think our biggest risk is this. I would put that within here. So I would say, hey, we met with several employees and they feel the biggest risk for their safety or for the citizen's safety is within this particular area. And I would put that, just document that, what your risk is within that particular department. This is what we're going to focus in on. And that will allow us. The math does not need to add up. It does not, we're not looking at that. Ideally, again, it would line up, but if it doesn't, if you don't feel it's going to add value for you to focus on that particular area, then don't focus on it. Focus on something that you think is going to benefit your employees, benefit your citizens, benefit your organization as a whole, to help reduce risk within your organization. The next piece is really just the safety action plan itself. Again, you're going to put the department that you're going to focus on. You're going to put the loss type that you're going to focus on. So what is it going to be? Motor vehicle incidents. Typically, you can't go wrong with focusing on motor vehicle incidents. We have a lot of those. That's our leading cause of incidents. If you combine motor vehicle incidents within work comp and property liability, there's no question that's where our most total incurred dollars are occurring in all departments as a whole, but specifically within sheriff's offices. I'm going to look at somebody has a question. Would you please resend the field report for both work comp and IRMA? Again, I would ask if you can, each of you, and I'd like to respond. I'm not sure if I'm going to remember. I'm not writing things down. So if you could just send me an email, I'll be happy to do that. And just send it to me, and I will forward it to you as quickly as possible. So just recall that. Again, ultimately speaking, you want to look at what is causing your motor vehicle incidents, and you want to get to the root cause of the incident. So I know that we did a problem-solving event for one of our members on the GMA side, and we met with, it was a police department, and we met with them. They were having a lot of motor vehicle incidents, and a lot of them were due to emergency response. So I sat down with the department. We were kind of brainstorming, trying to find out what the root cause of that incident was. We looked at a lot of the incidents they were having, and it came out within the discussion that that the person that was first to respond to the incident, the first person on site after the incident, was held up as a hero. So from a cultural perspective, they could have as many policies and as many statements about driving safely, but because the chief in that particular department was recognizing those employees that were first to the scene with, hey, you're great, you're doing fantastic, what did that do? Well, that encouraged everyone else in that department to drive fast to the scene. They didn't really care about their safety. They didn't really care about the safety of others. They cared about getting to the scene quick. So what we have to do, we had to look at what could we do to help change that culture. We met with the chief. We met with others in that agency. We helped craft some education. We can do training, but if the chief is or anybody in a leadership role is going against that particular policy or against that training, it's not going to be as effective as if it's integrated. So you got to look at what the root cause of the issue is, and no matter what that is. And that's something I can help you do. That's something your field reps can help you do, is looking at that root cause. Again, there's a lot of different ways to do that. We have specific training on 5 whys that'll help you get the root cause. I can help provide that particular training. We can do it over the phone. I can help you look at some different things, asking some different questions. And ultimately, the 5 why is really just asking the question why. You pretend like you're, anybody have toddlers out there? You just basically pretend you're a toddler. So for instance, the way I like to put it is this. Mommy, why is the sky blue? And then you respond, well, because that's the way God made it. And the toddler says, well, why did God make the sky blue, Mommy? And then you would say to the child, well, because that's whatever the answer is. And you'll keep on going down there until you get the root cause of that particular situation. Ultimately, they say if you can ask and answer 7 or so questions, you're going to get down to the root cause of the issue. And ultimately, it comes down to a culture piece. You can do policies, you can do training. In this particular case, we're looking at the first action is communicate the goal and its status to department and monthly meetings. One of the things you can do within any goal, the more you can communicate it to people and they're going to start measuring it, they will know within your department that that's important. So for instance, again, if you have bosses, everyone has a boss and everybody knows what their boss is looking for. And if you're a good employee, that you try and complete those things. You know that is what you're going to be measured on, so you really focus in on that. So if your boss is constantly, if you're a police officer or a law enforcement officer, and you're constantly asking, how quick did you get to the scene? Guess what? Your employees are going to constantly get to the scene quicker. But if you're a boss or a supervisor in a leadership role within a sheriff's office, and you're constantly asking, how are we doing regarding motor vehicle incidents? Are you driving safely? Are you wearing your seatbelt? Are you doing this regarding motor vehicle operation? Did you complete your training? Are you following your training? You're following these procedures. Guess what? They're going to start believing that's important to the culture of the organization. So getting those up, getting those measured, getting those mentioned on a monthly basis tells everybody it's important. Again, enhance or develop motor vehicle policy. That's always something you can do within motor vehicles and in anything. So if you have ergonomic related issues, anything, if the concern is if you set a policy and then people can't meet that particular policy. So for instance, if let's say you have ergonomic related issues and you say nobody will lift over 50 pounds within our organization and they're required to lift 100-pound bags, they're going to be constantly violating the policy, and the policy is not going to mean much. So you need to make sure that your policy meets the expectations of the organization and can be set, and that your supervisors and that your managers are going to be able to implement that policy, or it's just going to cause frustration and ultimately fail. And again, within the policy you might have for motor vehicles that you're going to do investigations of any motor vehicle incident. And you're going to review, determine if there's at fault, there might be consequences associated with that. So all these policies, all these things we have available to you, we can help you produce those, we can help you get this information, and we can help you implement that. So that's what really we're looking for. The last part of the action plan, again, we'd like to see you do 2 departments and working with that. But depending on your size, depending on your resources, depending on how persuasive you are with your loss control rep, if most of your losses are within a specific department, then focus in on one department. I'm okay with that as long as the action plan. I'd rather have you do one thing and do it very, very well, and it's going to have an impact, than do a bunch of different things and not be able to manage it and not be able to do it well. The last thing is really looking for you to get the top elected official to sign off, and then the department or office leaders of each location, each focus area to sign off on this, put their name and the sign, because they're committing to this action plan. They're saying, hey, I've reviewed the losses, I've looked at the action plan, and I'm committed to implementing these different things. And again, you should be holding them accountable to that. The last piece is, again, working your plan. Again, these are just kind of reminders, and we're about ready to wrap up, so we'll get your questions ready. Action plans available on the ACCG website. You can find that sample plan, as I talked about that, print it off, or you can fill it in and send it in to me. Again, loss runs have been emailed to you via an encryption. If you don't have those, if you want those, any reports you need, send me an email and I'll send them to you. If you were on the original email list, I will send those to you. Again, if you'd like analysis, you can contact. You want different analysis? We do have a couple additional reports, one-pagers that might be a little bit different. I can send those to you. Can work on some of your numbers. Let me know. I'll be happy to do that. Again, communicate your plan once you get your action plan or the process with others. Don't do it yourself. You doing your plan by yourself, one person within the county trying to get this done, adds no value. That is not the premise behind this. The premise is to get others involved, to hold other people, that really ultimately the leaders of those particular high-risk departments, high-opportunity departments, to hold those people accountable to help with the development and ultimately the implementation with this. Let's see. Review your plan or ask for assistance for ACCG risk control. You got an issue, you got a problem, pick up the phone, give me a call, call your loss control rep. We want to help you. We think this is valuable. We're going to put resources to help you do that. Review monthly and discuss progress. So once you've completed your plan, review it on a monthly basis. Don't just let it sit there. You should have milestones. You should have dates on when those items are going to be completed, and you should meet with those members, those leaders of those particular department to make sure that they are implementing those things. And guess what? They don't implement them, you should hold them accountable. They implement them, you should praise them to the hilt and make sure that they know they have done a fantastic job. And when there's opportunities for recognition, give them that recognition. Celebrate successes and improve. You want to encourage people. You want to be a cheerleader. Recognize those people that are doing well. Update and tweak annually. Again, you'll look at that. So those plans need to be submitted to me by May 1st. And then again, your field rep between May 1st and May 20th will be in contact with you to evaluate your plan and provide any recommendations. And I would assume after this call, you guys are all going to do fantastic, and your rep will say, you are so good, you're the best action plan maker in the history of action plans, but some of you might need some additional help. So again, if you want to wait for the call, you can do that, or pick up the phone in the interim and have us help ahead of time. So I'm going to read a few questions here. Any issues with sharing the names on these reports? Again, if I would say that the premise behind it keeping confidential is really, again, there could be some confidential information. That's why it's encrypted. I would not share the names of injured employees unless they have a need to know. So let's say leaders within an organization, they probably have a need to know. If you want to show it to the department managers within the public works or wherever your high opportunity is, they probably have a need to know. Maybe a supervisor within the area needs to know, but the general population does not need to know. Again, thank you. I got to thank you here, so thank you so much. Okay, do you have any reports available that bottom line show the cultural mindset of being the hero played in a pivotal role of the accident? This would be helpful to show that it's not just a few here. There are to our departments. Stephen, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for there. If you could give me a call or send me an email specifically what you're looking for, and maybe we can talk later. I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, but I'd love to be able to help you out. Going to another webinar. Okay, thank you so much. And there's a thank you. Thank you for the information. So we got a lot of good comments here. Thank you guys all. I'm going to end this. It is now 2:56. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Be happy to answer. I'm available. You can send it to me via email. You can send me a request or pick up the phone and give me a call. If you need anything, do not hesitate to ask. That's what we're here to help with. So thank you so very, very much. You all have a good rest of the day and a great weekend. I hope that the rain stops shortly and that you'll be able to enjoy a few days outside during the weekend. So thank you so very, very much. Have a great rest of the day, and we will talk later.